Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of.
What's on his desk?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so what's on my desk with a familiar face you guys already know. You've seen Adrian in quite a few of my videos. He's my top sales guy. Has been with me since he was 17 years old, that's quite a few years.
Quite a few years. 29.
Yeah, he's 29 now. Why did I bring Adrian on, and why I always bring Adrian on in the past is to kind of give you guys a market analysis on things. Don't be spooked by a lot of these watches. The reason why I brought a bunch of watches over here is just to show you what we are actually buying. This is probably the last 2 weeks worth of purchases within Luxury Bazaar and the kind of stock that we're holding, because right now everybody is scared shitless. What is the state of the industry? Everybody is panicking, everybody's being chaotic, but we're not. And I'm going to tell you why we're not panicking, and let's talk about the general state of the watch market right now, Adrian.
Yeah. Well, Roman, thank you for having me back. It's great to be back, and I'm excited for some future content that we were talking about.
Oh, we have something in the works.
Looking forward to coming back to that. Well, basically, I'm going to preface this by saying that the watch market, watch industry, just like any other industry right now, is more or less on pause. Again, I don't think there's any need to panic like a lot of people are doing. I think that the industry is in a correction, and not on all models. I would say it's in a correction for the most part on things that over the past 2 to 3 years have spiked in price, and not even due to a supplier demand thing, just from the perspective of buyers going into retail authorized dealers and buying watches at list, flipping them at list, and flipping them to other people, and flipping them, which caused basically the market to go into a spiral upward.
I think the best example we can talk about here is the Patek Philippe Nautilus models, right? And all Nautilus models and some of the Aquanaut models. The retail flippers, as we call them, or the guys that develop a relationship at an AD, they go in, they get in line, they wait for their 5711 or 5980 or whatever it might be to come in for the sole purpose of taking it and reselling it and making a profit. Not caring much about what the watch is, but the value of the profit that it will carry once they physically get it. Those guys are gone. Those days are gone. Those guys are gone. Even though Nautiluses have come down in price tremendously, right? Yeah, let's use a 5980 Rose is probably the best example. That watch went up to 185,000, right?
Before the spike, I mean, this is a watch that consistently traded between 80 to 90,000 pending condition for 5-6 years consistently. There was demand for it. There was the.
It wasn't easy to get.
But that's not easy to get, but there was sufficient supply of it. The global market as a whole didn't, rise to directly correlated with the 5980 model. So there was no reason for it to really go up, other than
what caused the spike originally was when the first person on 47th Street, and I know who he was, took that watch and put diamonds in it. That caused the initial spike, and all of a sudden, all of 47th Street, they follow suit. I mean, those guys, they literally copy off of each other, and they're right next to each other. They all started buying up these Nautiluses and putting diamonds in them. They were selling like hotcakes. You see them features in rap songs and among other things, and all of a sudden, that caused the spike. And then, to piggyback off of that, and I think the bigger reason why some of this bubble type of situation was created was the fact that in the last 5 to 6 years, you had a lot of new blood that walked into this business. A lot of young guys that got into this business that, I didn't want to say that they were stupid. I didn't want to say they don't know what they're doing. But nevertheless, they got into the business when they saw quick and easy money. They wanted a piece of that pie. And what did they do? They went out there, borrowed some money. It's some stupid interest. Some had somebody else invest. And the only thing they did is they bought hot models. Nautiluses, certain Royal Oaks, Aquanauts, Richard Milles, stuff that was an easy, quick flip. Oftentimes, money wasn't even necessary. They went out there and they were trading amongst each other. And when you got to a point where there's like 500 of them, or 1,000 of those guys worldwide, attending every single trade show, buying and selling stuff, that's what caused the price inflations, because they were doing business amongst each other. And a Richard Mille would not end up on anyone's wrist. It would end up in the showcase of the biggest guy, the guy that wanted to have all the stock, that wanted to have all the Richard Milles and stuff. But yet, again, 1 out of 10 ended up on someone's wrist at an inflated price, where the rest sort of kind of stuck around.
Very similar, not to cut you off, very similar to what happened with Rolex. I mean, Rolex is still king. It's one thing to get a Nautilus at retail, right? Every salon, store, whatever you want to call it, boutique, they don't really get very much of them. But every AD or point of sale gets a lot of them. I would probably say for every 5711, there's probably 5,000 Batmans, or whatever the case may be, and a lot more.
Maybe not that much, but certainly I understand the analogy.
Right, and Rolex is of course more affordable. For somebody to spend $8,500 at retail or $11,000, it's still a lot more affordable than stainless steel Nautilus is.
I guess I understand what you're saying. If you took 10 guys out there that wanted to get out there and flip a watch, it's a lot more affordable to flip a watch that retails for $9,500 than it is a watch that retails for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. And I get what you're saying with that. Plus, it's a lot more accessible. An average Joe off the street is not going to walk into a Patek dealer or a Patek boutique and say, I'm going to buy XYZ. Rolex is a lot more accessible, so there are a lot more of them. And again, what do you think started the Rolex stainless steel craze? In my opinion, I think it was the rumor that the Hulk was going to get discontinued, and the GMT was going to get discontinued, and all of a sudden, all the dealers started buying up GMTs, Hulks, Pepsis, et cetera, et cetera.
I would say exactly that. I remember a time, go back maybe 2 years, specific instance. Somebody that I knew said that I am looking to purchase Hulks, specifically Rolex Hulks, and
Alan. I remember. I know who it is. Okay.
And I'm thinking, well, why? This is a.
He bought 40 Hulks in one show. I remember that.
This is a $8,500 watch. Always has been for the longest time.
He was buying them up at the time. I remember this.
10,000.
Yeah, he was paying 8, 9, 10, 11,000.
The number specifically at the time was, I am paying $10,000 for Rolex Hulks. $10,000.
There you go.
What am I missing here? So that being said, that was like the turning point that started everything else, because then other subs became more popular. Batman's skyrocketed. I mean, Skydwellers, this and that, new releases, and then people saw or learned via Facebook groups, other online portals that, hey, I can walk in, I can get it Submariner at retail, swipe my card, get points, and make $500 along the way. Hey, let me do that again.
What that started, that very moment. This is how it works out. It becomes a catch-22, and this is what happens when somebody gets a whiff of something either being discontinued or something new coming out, and all of a sudden they start buying up things, therefore raising the market in the secondary market. Guys like us, what happens to the ADs? ADs stop delivering those things to retail clients because all of a sudden they're saying, wait a minute. 9,500 retail. My cost is 37 off, so I'm already making about $3,500 on this watch when I sell it at full retail. But now you got guys out there paying 10, so why shouldn't I make an extra 500? Now you got guys paying 11 and 12 and so on and so forth. And slowly but surely, these prices started increasing as some of the bigger guys started buying this stuff up, therefore creating a market. Right. And you have to understand something. The secondary industry, the gray market, such as us, we're a humongous market. There's thousands upon thousands of dealers out there. And when they start trading amongst each other, therefore making those prices goes up, that affects the authorized dealers. The whole shortage rumors, yeah, there was some shortage, but it wasn't due to the fact that Rolex all of a sudden decided to make less. The shortage was because demand was high. That's what created that shortage.
Absolutely.
It wasn't Rolex per se, right? Because Rolex kept spitting them out. Rolex is a money-making machine, and it will be a money-making machine. As you said, they're number one and always will be number one. So now you have an authorized dealer that all of a sudden says, oh, I don't need to leave money on the table. And I've talked about this before where I said, these authorized dealers, didn't just get Batmans, Hulks, and Submariners and things of that nature. They also got stuck with bigger pieces like Presidents and Pearl Masters and ladies' pieces that weren't really selling, two-tone stuff. And that very moment, which started with the Hulks and went on to GMTs and subs and everything else, moved everything else along. Because now all of a sudden, the end consumer and those newbie dealers that have been in business in the last 4 or 5 years are thinking that their shit doesn't stink. And guess what? Every single Rolex is a moneymaker now. This is what made a Datejust go to retail.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And above.
We used to get an inquiry on a website for a plain Jane's 36 millimeter Datejust, and we would just end up taking that stuff off the web because in reality, the only thing we could do is maybe offer it at retail, maybe slightly above. A watch that you could normally get 20% off on.
Yeah, I mean, the Datejust was a watch, of course, a pending dial or bezel, whatever the case may be, it was always a watch we were delivering at 15% off. I mean, across the board, that's just what it was.
Listen, we used to deliver Submariners at 15% off. It didn't really matter, but because when that hype started, it translated to the entire brand, and that's what caused all this. Now, what's happening right now? Now you have a sort of reverse factor, right? It's a combination of dealers that haven't been in the business long enough that are now stuck with all this inventory that they overpaid for. The guys that sort of got in at 20% below the peak. So let's say if the GMTs were 18.5 or 17.5, and these guys were buying these GMT Pepsis for 16,000, 16.5. We've bought them for 16,000, 16.5 ourselves.
Bought them for more.
Even 17,000, right? To fill an order, not to stock it. And what happens now is it's sort of a reverse effect. Now it's a combination of how these prices are going to come down. It has nothing to do with demand, believe it or not, because the demand is still there.
Yeah,
people still want those watches.
People still want the watches.
But the question becomes is, if I'm somebody that's holding a large stock of these watches and I paid 10 to 25% under the peak value, right? And I'm using the GMT as an example because that went up stupid high. I mean,
right.
$18,500, it's crazy. And now I'm owning all these watches at $15,000, $16,000, and they're not selling at that price. Because now you're going to have a new influx of merchandise, because what are these ADs going to do? If I need a Pepsi tomorrow and AD has it, I'm no longer paying him $16,000. Now I'm offering $13,000, $14,000, which he'll still gladly take because it's still $5,000 over list. And this is why the prices are going to come down to earth, but you won't see them come down to retail levels, because it's going to take a long time for all that inventory out there that's been priced so high to come down in price, and it's impossible for it to come down to that retail level just the same. Because the market is not stopping.
The market is not stopping, and I think it's very important to point out that just like any other crazy surge, whether it be stocks or anything that's hype, at a certain point it's going to stop. So this correction was due to happen, and it actually happened, unfortunately. Because
are you happy with this correction?
Yes, I am happy with this correction.
I'll tell you why I'm happy. Number one, I'm happy with the fact that it weeded out the private sector. As much as I love you guys, I always said, private clients have no business in our business unless they decide to go full-fledged into this business. The flippers that were out there for the sole purpose of buying a hot watch and flipping it to another dealer to make a profit, a fly-by operation, 90% of them right now are suffering, because I guarantee you most all of them are sitting on some of this hot stuff they thought they were going to sell over list, and now they're not able to do so. I'm talking about some higher end pieces, right? Or, yes, they can still make a profit on it, but it's not the profit that they thought they were going to make. And there's not a lot of guys out there writing checks right now, because a lot of those guys that they used to sell to, they're sitting on a shit ton of that inventory at a high price. And even though it's much, much cheaper, they don't want another rose gold Nautilus. Because if you got a guy out there sitting on 10 Nautiluses that he owns, let's say, at $150,000, even if you offer him another one for $120,000, he still won't stock it, because he has enough of it. He doesn't know what to do with the stuff that he has, right?
Absolutely, and I do still believe that all these pieces that are in a correction, so to speak, all the hot Submariners or Nautiluses or anything of that sort, they will correct, but I still think that they will be over retail. I have no question or doubt about it.
Like I said, it's mathematically impossible, knowing the stock that's out there right now in the secondary market. It's mathematically impossible. What may happen, and what may very well happen, is a lot of authorized dealers are actually going to start selling these things to individuals, to actual retail customers. They're going to put it on their wrist, and they may start selling them at retail price. You're going to see a few ADs out there that may do that, to sort of go back and recreate relationship with good clients. Example, we had an AD, I'm not going to mention any names, obviously, we had an AD call us and sell us a 5712, a 5276, 5726, and offered us a 5980 and a 5711 in rose gold. And in the back of my head, and I told this to Adrian, I'm like, I understand he can still sell it at a premium. We did pay him a premium. But if I was him, considering where the business is, considering the fact that the retail stores are now closed, period, wouldn't this be a good time to take those pieces that you were hiding in the back of your safe, and rather than flipping them to a guy like us for an extra profit, wouldn't it be smarter to make some important retail clients happy and sell them those things at retail? Don't take that extra profit, take the normal profit. But again, for some people, the dollar talks, so to speak.
I think it also, right now everybody is kind of in the unsure zone of how long that this global pandemic is going to last. Of course, in the short term, you're seeing prices correct. In the long term, I think we're going to see a lot of these flippers being weeded out. But it remains to be seen. I mean, we're not panicking. We're still doing good business. It's a little slower just simply because of logistics. A lot of our international clientele, we just can't physically get them the watches there, or some people can't send payments.
So there's places where they can't send payments. There's places where they can't send FedEx or armored services. But go back to what you were saying, the second reason I'm happy with what's happening in the market is outside of weeding out the private sector flippers, it's also weeding out the B2B flippers. You're going to see hundreds of guys stop doing what they're doing and look for something else because just there's simply no way in the world you can pick up. 3 months ago, I could pick up 5 Nautiluses and they'd be gone within an hour. A lot of you guys ask me, well, how come you don't have any of this stuff on the website? Because it doesn't make sense. Because in the market where the stuff was going up, we literally would, I could get in 10 Richard meals in the morning and it would be gone by the end of the day. I could do the same thing with Nautiluses, Rolexes, et cetera, and the margins were more or less the same because the market was an up and up. And the next flipper that was out there was paying more and more and more and more just to have that inventory. You know, well, not right now they're obviously suffering because of that. So you're going to see a lot of those guys go out. So to go back to, generalizing the market right now to you, the consumer, right? Because this is geared towards you guys. This is us now telling you how it is. 2 words to describe today's market.
Buyer's market.
Buyer's market. And what does that?
Simple.
And what does that do? And this is, like I said before in my video, this is the time and that you go out and you look for that timepiece that you've always wanted to. And also, I think that the definition of hottest stuff out there is slowly but surely being cooled off. I'm getting phone calls in for brands outside of Audemars Piguet, outside of Patek Philippe, outside of Richard Mille, and outside of Rolex, because people are realizing that there's deals out on brands other than that. Because of the hype of all the other stuff that I just mentioned, the other brands suffered slowly but surely. And that market didn't change. The prices on that stuff didn't change. It was a good deal. 3 months ago, it's a good deal today.
I was going to mention... regardless of what's happening with the premium pieces that we've been talking about, pre-owned Daytona that was 15,000 6 months ago or 15,000 a year and a half ago is going to be 15,000 in 2 years.
Exactly.
That's just a thing.
It's actually going to be more.
It's on the big scale of the market, you only have a little portion of it that's in a correction. But for the most part, everything else, people are still holding strong to their prices, and I think that's what's good. Because if everything across the board, like a stock ticker, just started
this isn't 08.
It's not like that.
This is not 08.
This is not a global recession or the housing market crash or anything of that sort. It's simply a virus that's out there right now.
Well, right now, I think that the light at the end of the tunnel for this thing, and everybody has their own estimation across different regions. For example, for us in U.S., we're supposed to be at the peak now, and the next couple of weeks it's supposed to go down. The minute this goes down and people get a whiff of, hey, this thing is about to blow over and things are going to go back to normal, because that's, the stock market is going to go back up. The housing market hasn't really been affected price-wise yet. If anything, it'll be better because of the lower rates right now. Interest rates are zero. I mean, it's crazy. But with that said, once the world wakes up and gets out of their house, they're going to be eager to get back into the game, whether it be watches, real estate, cars, or whatever it might be, right? I think, I'm buying up cruise lines and airline stocks, because if you can imagine how much travel is going to take place once this whole thing is over. Bottom line is this. The purpose of this video is to show you guys that today, yes, prices have dropped somewhat on certain things. Prices are going to slightly drop on everything across the board, and that's due to, again, the amount of people in the secondary market today, especially those that got into this business the last 5-6 years, they don't know any better, they don't see a value in certain things, and they don't have the balls to buy certain things. So what are they doing? They're lowballing. And you're going to have guys out there that are in dire straits, both in the private sector and the dealer sector. They're going to be out there taking those lowball offers.
Absolutely.
And but that is not a humongous percentage of the market overall. Right. For majority, again, I'm getting phone calls and emails every single day. So a lot of you YouTube guys are reaching out to me today, say, listen, I'm looking to buy. Before I said that this is a buyer's market, but this is indeed a buyer's market.
Especially when you're quarantined in your house. If you're not watching Netflix, you go on YouTube or luxurybazaar.com.
Right? Yeah, my views have been up lately. So I brought a bunch of watches onto my desk today. There's no rhyme or reason to what I brought. This is just some stuff that, we bought over the last couple of weeks to show you guys, that, A, we're not scared, neither should you be scared. And the hot stuff is always going to stay hot and it's going to stay up in price. But you can now buy it at a more or less normal price. Rather than paying $100,000, something that was trading at $100,000, it's now maybe $90,000, $80,000. But guess what? That's more of a normal price where that particular timepiece should be. And then there's stuff that was completely untouched.
Hey, Roman.
Hey.
There's a lot of Rolexes in the safe, like the diamond Rolexes.
Right.
What are we doing with them?
They should all have stickers on them.
They all have stickers on them.
But is it stock?
Yeah. Put them in a separate bid.
Okay.
That was my inventory person. If you think we're not buying Rolexes, when she just said there's a lot of Rolexes with diamonds on them right now, there's about, how many pieces did you buy?
52.
So if you think Rolex isn't selling, Rolex is selling, and we're actively buying. Let me show you some examples of what I brought. Right, that's just random stuff that we bought. Again, no rhyme or reason to this stuff, and you're gonna see 75% of this stuff, and you're gonna be like, Roman, why the hell would you buy this in the market like this? Well, the answer is very simple. If the price is right, it will sell. Now, Adrian is going to be one of those guys say, roll his eyes on probably half of the stuff that I bought, because Adrian was always
I'm guilty of the flipping.
Yes, he's guilty of the flipping. This is something that he has always done. But again, he's done it under the Luxury Bazaar umbrella, and we have a lot of wholesale clientele. It's no secret. I told you guys numerous times that, a big part of our business is wholesale. But some of the stuff that I bought that's geared more towards the retail market, this is where Adrian would tend to roll his eyes. But when that stuff sells, and it sells quickly at a decent margin, because you remember, wholesale margins are tiny, this is when he tends to agree with me. So this is something you bought. This is a special RM30. What is this limited edition?
This is limited to 20 pieces of Venezuela.
2 months ago, what would you sell this for to a retail client?
$135.
What would you sell it to a retail client for today?
$135.
See, so stuff like this, and this is an expensive Richard Mille, seemingly not the hottest in terms of, complications. This is the plain Jane RM30 Power Reserve, right? But guess what? Go out and find one of these. So this isn't something that's going to change.
Let's talk about a few. Not to cut you off. A few.
Let's talk about the hot stuff.
The premium pieces that we have.
Okay, here's your double balance. Here's your 15202.
Here's the ceramic perpetual. If you want to take that out.
Where's that?
Right here.
Again, mind you, this is stuff that all came in within the last, I'd say, 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ceramic perpetual. What else you want to stick? You want to stick these chronos in there too?
Sure.
All right. How many hands do you have?
Oh, it's a black one. I got one.
The
hand.
black one or blue one? That's a black one. All right, so lift those up, and let's see. What do we have? We have two Royal Chronos, one slightly older. But this is the first 41 millimeter that came out with the white and the black. This is your Panda Black, right? We have a ceramic perpetual. We have a double balance, and we have a 15202 steel. So talk to me about the Chronos, for example. Stainless steel chrono, pre-owned. Normally, you would sell it for how much?
Normally, I would sell for $21,000. I'm still selling for $21,000. I think it's a fair price even today on the market. And this watch, I think, will forever be around $21,000.
Now, talk to me about the Panda dial.
The Panda dial still above retail price. This is the specific one. This is actually reverse Panda.
Excuse me, it's the reverse Panda.
Pandas are white.
These young
and black.
guys, they come up with these names.
So this reverse Panda, this is still a current collection AP Royal Low Chrono. Retail price is $24,000. Or actually, no, they just went up to $26,000. And even pre-owned, it's still bringing over retail, which is $26,000 and change. I forget what.
But 3 months ago, was this watch not 27, 28?
It was.
Okay, so we're seeing a little bit. We're still seeing a little, because even though the pieces are hot, you're still going to see. I think this is the one that took the biggest change, the double balance, right?
I would say I would preface this by saying, pieces like this that are still bringing supreme premiums over retail and impossible to get. So these are still remaining strong.
But hold on a second. This is trading what, $135 right now?
The ceramic perpetual?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, but hold on a second. I remember this thing trading at $150 as well.
Well, this thing was also trading at $110 about 4 or 5 months ago.
Because there was a few of them in the market.
For whatever reason. For whatever reason.
So this is what about this? I know these guys went up to over $100,000.
Yes, that is
which
correct.
I thought was the stupidest thing. Today, this thing is back down to what, 90?
About 90,000.
Okay, so for new, about $90,000, pre-owned maybe 85.
Yeah.
Right, maybe 80 if you're lucky. And again, that's a watch that retails for 51,000. It used to be 40 something, now it's up to 51,000. So nothing is going to affect something of that nature. Here's another one that I feel is never going to be affected. This is a
QE2 cup.
Well, I know what this is. I'm just trying to get my camera on. So the QE2 cup. This is arguably one of the best looking offshores. I've had this watch. We've had this watch 4 times over in the last 3 months.
Yeah,
and guess what? 4 months ago, when I showed it on the channel, this thing was retailing at about $60,000. Right now, we can retail probably about $55,000, maybe even a little bit less. Why? Because again, it's that small adjustment. Guys, don't get us wrong. I told you guys numerous times in our business, it's like. Money, cash is always king, and we never have any because we're always buying, right? So even guys like us are gonna come down in certain prices to move more product, and mainly it's to move product and raise cash. But at the same token, it's going back to the basics and attracting the retail customer with a better price than average or better price than the next guy. Competition is still healthy, you know what I mean? So that's why we're gonna keep that in mind while buying this watch. Now, this one that we bought it a few $1,000s cheaper than the last guy, and therefore we not trying to sell it for that same 60,000. We're going to try to sell it for 55,000, 52, 53,000, whatever it might be, right? So I think that's more than fair.
I think it's also important to point out that regardless of how good the market is, whether it's a soft market, whether it's a really good market, our business model of selling and working with our clients pretty much remains to be the same. We're always willing to negotiate. We're always willing to take trades in. We're not in dump mode like a lot of people are.
Yeah,
because our prices.
You're not that easy to negotiate with. I'm the sucker. If you guys want to deal, email me because I'm the sucker. I always take my pants off, as they say. You're not that easy to negotiate. Talk to me about the 15202.
15202.
Blue dial. This is the mother of all collectible Rolex.
Yes.
And would you say we overpaid for this watch?
Remains to be seen. It depends the money that hits our account.
Yeah, because right now this watch is still trading in the low 40s. You can find them pre-owned in high 30s. This thing went up to almost 50 grand.
Yeah,
at some point, and right now it's going to be trading in those low to mid 40s. It's still a pretty huge premium. This is a scarce watch. They don't make many of them. The question remains: is there a consumer out there that, in a situation like today, will pull a trigger on something like that at 40 grand plus? Considering the fact that there's still that bit of a panic mode for some, and also mood. It's a mood thing, right? Right now, everything is in the shitter. Everybody's sitting at home, and the stock market is down, and businesses are closed, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So mood does have a lot to do with it. If you think that every single consumer out there is out there eager to buy all these watches, they're not. There's a big percentage of them that are sitting put and seeing what's going to happen to their stock portfolio, seeing what's going to happen to their real estate investments, things of that nature. And even though they may be sitting on $100 million, doesn't still mean that they're in the mood to spend that money. Right. That was the worst problem in 08. It's not as bad now as it was in 08. 08, the biggest issue was the mood, the overall mood, because people just everything was going down across the board, no matter where you looked, right? Now, let's talk about some stuff that you would never consider stocking in a market like this. People would think that I would be completely out of whack in a market like this to buy something of this nature, right? This is a Langate tourbillon. This is a limited edition of 100 pieces, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a timepiece like this anywhere available. I think I may have seen one online. I don't know if people actually have it. They're asking over $200,000 for it, close to its retail price. And again, not the most sellable watch because it's very tough to find. First of all, Langate buyer is a small market to begin with, but this is probably one of the most quality made watches in the world. I've talked about this before. And when I brought this in, Arthur and Adrian both looked at me and said, I'm nuts. Why would you buy this in a market such as this? Well, the answer is very simple. It's a watch that I could not deliver ever for less than $250,000, $240,000.
On call.
If I needed it, right?
Very true.
And if I needed it, I couldn't find it. But now it's a watch that I can deliver under $200,000. And there is a client, there's an ask for every seat. In fact, I know that one of my clients whom I've offered this watch is watching this video right now, and maybe by the time it airs, she'll actually pick up this watch because, again, it's a watch that you could never ever find south of $200,000. That never happened. It's a watch you can never find south of $240,000, $230,000, and $250,000. So that's why I bought this watch. And again,
also to point out, this will never be a $100,000 watch
ever.
So very important.
How about this? A Harry Winston Opus 5. When was the last time you saw one of these things? And that is the very reason I bought this particular watch. I remember selling an Opus 5 in rose gold for close to $200,000. This was during the hot market pre-08, and then the stuff kind of took a dump, and these watches aren't trading at $200,000 right now. Well, the platinum was $200,000. This was probably around $150,000, $160,000. But again, the only reason I bought this particular watch is because if anybody's out there looking for an Opus watch, they're not going to get out there and find one. Because again, this was a super limited production, 45 pieces. Most people that own them, they held on to them. Why did they?
Or were oligarchs.
Why do they hold on to them? Because again, there's only very few made. It's a humongous watch. Felix Baumgartner. This is the watch that started the Urwerk. This is pre-Urwerk, right? See the movement? Looks familiar to you? So again, this is one of those things that I only bought simply because I know no other guy out there will have it, regardless of the market. Let's look at some other crazy shit how about, consistently stocking tourbillons, right? Why would anybody want to stock tourbillons, right? Platinum offshore tourbillon, a rose gold offshore tourbillon. Why would anybody in their right mind want to stock this? Well, you have to understand something. This has been our specialty for a long time. So when we're out there purchasing things, we have to have this stuff in stock because people do come for us for this. We sold one of these guys last week. to a retail customer that took advantage of the market and paid probably $15,000 less than what that watch normally would run him. You know, you guys always tell me, Roman, you don't buy a lot of the run-of-the-mill stuff, or you don't buy a lot of the lower-priced merchandise and things of that nature. Oh, absolutely we do, because right now, because believe it or not, it's a lot easier to sell a watch that's under $10,000 than it is to sell a watch that's over $100,000. Again, it's a numbers game, right? So what do? I got out there again. Adrian started rolling his eyes a little bit, and Arthur was rolling his eyes. I went out and bought a bunch of IWCs and Panarais, but I did buy them slightly cheaper than I normally would. Because again, just like the consumer market is panicking a little bit, there's a lot more panic in the B2B. Yes. There's guys, there's dealers out there that are sitting there on a lot of merchandise that's not selling, and they're starting to panic. So for us, it's a lot easier to pick those deals out.
So they just simply can't work.
So, that's another thing. But I'm talking about secondary dealers. So when you guys ask me about regular stuff like IWCs and Panarais and things of that nature, there's certainly plenty of that, right? Your standard pilots, your standard marinas, your standard submersibles, big pilots and things of that nature. I buy these things by the ton, and I will continue buying them because right now I'm buying them slightly cheaper, and I'm putting forth a price that's slightly cheaper to the customer. Again, those that are looking to take advantage of the buyer's market. Let's talk about Cartier. We have every Cartier in steel in stock. Your Ballon Blues, your Santos, and all that other stuff. But outside of that, you know, I went bigger and better. I went and bought a bunch of gold pieces as well. I'm not afraid of these because you know what? At the price I bought them is a price that I've never bought them at. Brand new watches, and you know what? Dealer wanted to come off some stock. I offered him a not so reasonable offer, I would say. You know what I mean? And I bought these things cheap. So now I'm able, if before any Cartier out there, especially the Calibres and the Ballon Blues and all those things, if the going price was 15 off, maybe 20 off, you know, now I'm able to sell these things at 35 off, even 40 off, which is higher. Dealer cost is 37 off on these things. So when a customer is going to get out there and they're going to be looking for a deal on that Cartier that before they could buy 20 off, now I can sell it to them at 40 off, all of a sudden, I either make an existing customer happy or gain a new client, which is what this is all about. How about untouchable shit? Stuff that I could never get before, period. Resin swatches. You guys have asked me to review these things forever. I couldn't get a hold of them because they were selling like hotcakes at close to list every single time. But I managed to pick up, not many, I think we picked up 5 or 6 of them. I managed to pick them up at a discount where I'm able to sell them at 35 to 40 off, which before was unheard of. You know, anybody that went out there and bought resin swatches, they'd be hard pressed to get a discount of more than 10 off. A little weird watch, probably going to do a what's on my desk on it. Speaking of weird, did the same thing with Devon watches. Remember those crazy things? Again, bought them at a price point where we're managing to give discounts. So what does this all mean? That means 2 things. Number one, we're not scared. We're still buying. We're buying with the purpose of now catering to a retail client and to bring them forth better deals to beef up our stock. And again, don't think for a second that we don't have some pieces in stock that are overpriced. And don't think for a second that we don't lose on watches. We do. Agents sold plenty of watches last week on which we lost money because the market shifted slightly. Remember, if we're working within that 5 to 10% margin, a market only has to shift slightly for us to be in the loss column. But what do? We talked about this before in Hong Kong. You buy yourself out, right? And this is exactly what we're doing. And this is the difference between guys like us and somebody else out there that's been in the business for 3-4 years. They don't have the ability to buy themselves out.
Also, perfect example as to why. The viewers ask you, why don't you have all the run-of-the-mill stuff? Why don't you have 40 Hulks and 40 Batmans all at once?
There's no need.
It's because when you're working on a 2% margin...
Yeah, but that's not even a 5% margin.
And tomorrow the market takes a hit, that could be $1 million loss like that.
Exactly.
So anytime we had them, we always had a customer lined up for them regardless, or we flipped them. So I made sure not to ever have more than 5-10 Nautiluses or Rolexes.
Listen, there were times where we had 30, 40 Richard Milles in stock, but that was when the market wasn't as hot as it was today. We're going back about 5 years, right? I guess where we're going with all of this, it's okay to panic. It's okay to sit back and do nothing. On the flip side of that, you can take advantage of the buyer's market, and we are taking advantage of that buyer's market just the same. Let me do another example. It's a De Grisogna, not the hottest brand in the world. Doesn't sell as hot, but it's a beautiful, fully diamond encrusted ladies' timepiece that retails for $117,000 that we're selling for around $20,000. Yeah. How can you pass up on a deal like that, right? Now, this wasn't. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't selling at 30 off 3 months ago. It was still selling at 50 off, 60 off, but it wasn't selling at 70 off. It wasn't selling at 80 off. How about this guy? I couldn't pass up on this deal. A watch that wasn't super popular, the MC Carver 1, right? The guy that came after the MC12 Autumn RPA. But I bought it at a stupid low price. I mean, the retail is like $300,000. I think, what are we selling this thing for? $70,000? How can you pass up on stuff like that? How about this? This is where Arthur was a little bit. Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't
because he can't pronounce the name.
Yeah, Jörg Heisig.
Is that
heard of them?
It's not George.
It's Jörg.
Oh, I thought it was George.
Wait,
all this time.
Wait, well, okay, you can call him whatever you want. Jörg Heisig. It's a tourbillon mirror repeater automatic. Extremely complicated timepiece. Look at the rotor in the front. Pretty cool watch, right?
Big boy.
A retail is what? I don't know, 600, 500,000. You can name whatever retail you want. And, we're selling this watch for like 15 grand. Somebody out there looking for a deal or something like this. Yeah. In a good market, 3 months ago, I probably would have paid 50,000 for this. But again, slightly decreasing the prices, anticipating a little bit of a drop on certain things across the board. This is what you do, and this is how deals come abroad. People would think I would be nuts to pick up Ulysses Nardine Freaks, which seemingly the brand is kind of like dead in the water, so they're saying. But guess what? We're still buying. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Freaks, and I think we have 2 more downstairs from previous stock. Again, these bought slightly cheaper, average down the cost, and continue selling them. What else, Adrian? Oh, here's a good one.
Do it.
Do it. No, it's not do it, it's do it.
Do it.
Do it. A seemingly dead brand, but how can one pass up on their tourbillons if I can retail them at 70 off? Yeah. Or maybe even 75 off if somebody really asks. Oh, ladies' pieces. That's another one. I told you guys traditionally that ladies' pieces are, don't hold value well, and you can always find a deal on ladies' pieces. Guess what? They're still selling. There's still guys out there buying presents for their wives. So what do? I go out there, I pick up some Harry Winston at some stupid discounts, pick up the Queen of Naples. And the discount of Queen of Naples is not crazy. It's pretty much regular discount, but that's the #1 watch bought by guys for girls, as far as I'm concerned, because, Brigade is always something that's been super appealing to guys, and that would be not necessarily the #1 watch that girls want to buy, but certainly something that's appealing to guys to buy for their significant other. So diversity is key. Again, we're not trying to lie to anybody and say, the market is great. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the wholesale market dying down. Because remember, when you had all these flippers and you had all these small dealers that were in the business to buy and flip hot stuff amongst each other, and you add, 1,000 plus people into that particular mix, your wholesale business was booming. We flipped so many Richard Milles and so many Rolexes and so many APs, but now that business it's down, and it's down hard. It's down a lot harder than the retail market, right? So because we're so diversified with first the business models that we have, which is wholesale and retail, because of the fact that we don't only sell watches, we also sell jewelry, and that's a whole different topic altogether, right? What's happening right now is that we're shifting our focus more on the retail end of things, which is probably something that I plan on staying in. I told you guys in the past that long term, the light at the end of the tunnel for LB is to sell the company. You can't really sell a wholesale business, you know what I mean? But you can sell a huge retail business. The plan was over the next 2 to 3 years is to go from, wholesale being this and retail being this, and to sort of flip-flop that, leaving wholesale for just something that we want to dump, most likely at a loss, something that hasn't sold and things of that nature. And this was supposed to be spread over the next 2 to 3 years. We got a kick in the ass, and it happened abruptly. Maybe this was a good thing. Maybe this is going to help us get away from the wholesale and the things and move strictly into retail a lot faster than we originally planned. Let's talk about this in the last week. How many pieces have you sold wholesale, you think? Well, this week, what today? Today is Wednesday, last 3 days.
A fraction of what we used to. Let's say 15 pieces. Versus much more, let's just say. Yeah. But I'm not overly concerned. I'm kind of looking forward to the future. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the new trend is going to be in this. Do
you think once this is all over, and it will be over, I'm confident that it will be, and I am confident that we're halfway through it here in the United States. Most countries are sort of tapering down with this nonsense. If I had to set a goal date, I don't think the June. Do you think the June Hong Kong show is going to happen?
I don't think so. I still think it's going to be in the ether out there by June.
What do you think about, let's say, the September show?
I think September is fair to say.
What are your thoughts on what's going to happen in September once all these people that have been locked away all this time are going to go to the biggest trade show of the year?
A whole lot of product from Europe.
A whole lot of product
from the United States, from all over Asia. But
what about buyers?
Well, obviously, it's a trade show. There's going to be a lot of buyers there. It's going to be interesting to see what their eye is out for, because in recent times it's been after 4 brands. specifically. And to be honest, it's become a bad business overall with these horrible margins. You have to have horrible, big inventory.
Yeah, you gotta buy $200,000 Richard Mille to make $5,000. I get it.
So I'm excited to see what's to come. And
do you think that dealers will finally wake up? Because look, guys like us that've been in this game for a long time, we take advantage of the hot stuff. Don't think for a second that Adrian hasn't been flipping Rolexes and APs and Richard Milles and things of that nature. We obviously take advantage of that. But again, diversity is key. And a lot of guys that are in my shoes right now that have been in business 10 plus years, right? They are all just as diversified while doing that hype business. Those that were unlucky got stuck with some merchandise. We foresaw this. I 5 months ago, 6 months ago, I told Adrian, I don't want to see a Richard Mille in stock for more than a week. I want it gone. Same went with Nautiluses, same went with some of the other higher price hype stuff. Because if we bought a Rolex at $16,000, the price went down to $15,000, it's not a big hit. Or let's say the price went down 10%, it's a $1,500 loss. You buy a $250,000 Richard Mille, and that goes down in value 10%, that's a $25,000 loss. It's a big difference, right? So we took shorter margins, flipped them faster. I think that what's finally going to happen is the dealers that are going to stay in the business and not go out of business, that have been doing this hot flipping in the last 4 or 5 years, they're finally going to realize that there's more to this business than Richard Mille, than Rolex, than AP, and then Patek. And they're going to start diversifying, because that stuff is not going to be selling as much in order for them to sustain the business. They're going to be looking for other avenues to make money, and that other avenue is the diversity of stuff that I brought here today. Don't buy into the hype. Open your eyes. If a 15202 is truly what you want, this is the watch that you want because you love that particular movement, or double balance, or the perpetual ceramic, just ask yourself a question. Am I buying it strictly because of the hype, or I also really, really like the watch? And I've always said that it's okay to buy stuff based on hype. Right. Just keep in mind that that's why you're buying it. But you buy what you like first.
Buy what you like. We're not telling you to not buy your Submariners, not buy your Daytonas, not buy your Nautiluses. Buy exactly what you like. Basically, there is a little bit of volatility. I wouldn't say a little bit. I'd say there's a lot of volatility right now. But that should not scare you away from buying and taking advantage of the opportunity as a buyer right now.
And last but not least, right now you're seeing the answer to my question in real life time. Watches are not an investment. They're an expensive toy. I'm hoping that what's happening in the market today will maybe broaden the horizons of a lot of you guys out there to kind of open your eyes a little bit wider, take off the blinders, do a bit more diligence, and not, the main part is to not be in that mode. And what mode am I talking about is that, oh my God, I'm being offered a 5711. It's $60,000 tomorrow. Yesterday it was 55, and tomorrow it's going to be 65. I got to get out there. I got to get it. This is the hottest watch. This is what everybody is raving and talking about. This is the hottest watch to get. You now have a chance to take a breath, to analyze your options. I'm a dealer. Oftentimes we buy so quickly, we don't have a chance to take a breath, but we have experience in doing so. We know what's going on the spot. Me and Adrian can walk into a room, buy 100 watches, and maybe make 2 mistakes, right? But you guys, with the hot market, you guys never had a chance to stop, take a breath, and analyze what's going on, and not have that feeling of being hurried into a purchase. And this is what the market did in the last couple of years, as all this stuff was climbing, the hot stuff was climbing. Right now you have an opportunity to pause. It is a buyer's market, and there's no more that hurry up, because if you don't buy this, the next guy will.
So I wanted to ask you this question. What do you see as the difference between the watch market from 2008 crash to the pandemic that's going on right now?
How old were you in 2008?
2008, I was 17.
Okay. The difference is the following, is that in 2008, the wheel stopped completely. And it stopped both on wholesale and retail levels. Right now, the wheel hasn't stopped. We're still doing wholesale business. Our retail business is actually picking up a little bit due to the slowdown of the wholesale business, because a lot more product that we would normally sell wholesale and it wouldn't even make it out to the end consumer is now available to the end consumers. They're taking advantage of the pricing, right? Pandemic is global, but broken down by regions, would you say? So we've seen China go up, go down, get better. We've seen Italy go up, hit its peak, now come down. Then you're looking at places like Japan. It's it's a global pandemic, but it's kind of regional, right? Yeah. So as I'm sitting, and if I'm a guy sitting right now in Hong Kong when things have already calmed down, or if I'm the guy that's in Italy saying, we've gone through the worst. Yes, we lost a lot of people. This is terrible, and it hit us so bad. But I am sitting there, and I know that I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, even in Italy right now. Same thing is going to happen in the U.S. in a couple of weeks, and slowly but surely this stuff is going to come down. And that's the reason why this thing hasn't stopped drastically. Shit just stopped. It was just dead, like
immediately,
instantly. It was instantly dead, and everything was going bad, and nobody saw light at the end of that tunnel, right? I don't know how we made it through with Arthur at that time. We didn't have as much experience back then. We were fairly new to the game. We didn't have as much stock or money or anything for that nature. And the only way we managed to do it is by staying ahead of the falling market, buying slightly cheaper, selling slightly cheaper to stay ahead of the curve. And again, it was our retail clients that got us through, even in 08. You know what I mean? And we're talking about 12 years ago, 5 years in the business, still had enough retail clientele. Plus, don't forget, in 08, there weren't 5 million watch websites out there. There was only a handful, so that helped a lot. But it was the retail sector that helped us out, and the fact that we didn't have a humongous operation just then. I told you guys in the last video, my biggest concern when this happened was my employees. I have most of the people that are here that have been with me 10 plus years. It's a big family environment, and the biggest thing I was concerned about is not being able to pay my employees their salaries, to pay their benefits. Some of my employees have children and significant others. That was my biggest concern. I didn't have that worry in 08, because in 08, we had 7 people maybe, 6, right? So it was a little bit easier in that respect. And last but not least, technology. How much business are we doing over our WhatsApp groups? We have a WhatsApp group for dealers, right, where Adrian posts stuff. There's 250 trusted dealers that we do business with. We post our stuff. They buy, they don't buy, they make offers, whatever it might be. You didn't have that in 08.
Yeah,
You didn't have that concept altogether, right? Plus, outside of our own wholesale chat group, there's a dozen other chat groups that Adrian posts stuff on. He's able to do it that way remotely.
Facebook groups.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many watches we've sold to Italy, because guys are sitting in quarantine. They don't really have much better to do. Granted, they won't pay us for probably another 30 days, but because they can't get out of the house, okay, we can't ship there. But at the same token, we're still doing that business because technology, I believe, today, and the reach that you have today with some of these things like Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups and things of that nature, allows you to reach out and touch somebody, even though they might be stuck in quarantine somewhere in a remote part of the earth. And that's really the key difference. I think we've pretty much got our point across.
Yep.
I did want to ask you guys a question, and that is an idea that popped into my head. I'm older. Adrian doesn't go back to the days of home shopping networks, even though they still exist. I don't think you've ever watched QVC, have you?
I watch Lori on Shark Tank all the time.
Okay. No, that's my girl. That's Shark Tank. I'm talking about actual QVC.
Lori, though.
Right, but QVC. Do you watch the actual show?
I've seen the,
Right, okay.
Sort of.
So I had an idea yesterday, and I told you guys before, this channel is not geared towards selling anything, right? Even though, I'm not going to lie, a lot of you guys have bought a lot of watches from us since I brought up this YouTube channel, but I never really pushed product onto anyone. What a lot of times happens is product comes in, by the time you guys hear about it or see it on one of my shows or see it in an email, half of it is already gone. So I had an idea, because we're gearing more towards retails, to do a live YouTube show with Adrian, where we would literally put up, 50 watches onto the channel and show you guys the particular watches, talk about the conditions. We can even show things like boxing papers or what it comes with. Probably be a little cumbersome.
Do this on Zoom or what?
No, on YouTube. We can just go YouTube Live.
YouTube Live?
Yeah. We're finishing building a new studio, because this is very cumbersome. This is my actual office, right? So we're in our big executive conference room. We have plenty of space. We're actually building out a new studio. So I figured when we build that studio, was going to be designed for YouTube Live, right? And also for a new jewelry show that we're trying to do. I was literally thinking about taking 50, 20 pieces and say, hey, this just arrived. I paid $1. You can have it for $1.20. It's brand new box and papers. And you guys can instantly contact us and have instant access to new arrivals. That was my.
Will you get your hair cut before that, though?
I highly doubt it.
Okay.
And
just making sure. I was thinking the same thing.
I'm glad I have a beard. I'm glad I have a presentable. Beard. I don't have to shave. I have a beard, but right now it's starting to look just as well. But right now, normally my hair comes to a point. Right now it's starting to curl up at the point. So
at least you got a straight line.
We use the same barber. Shout out to Sean.
Yeah.
But I talked to Sean. I don't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know when and where. And I sure as hell don't want him to make a house call.
Yeah,
I don't want any barber. You said you had a barber that would make a house call, but I don't think I want to see a barber that would make house calls.
I rethought that idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. So I'm actually ordering a pair of clippers, so I'm gonna hook you up next week.
You're gonna do my hair?
Yeah. I know. Look, I was in the army, dude. I know how to do a fade. I mean, last time I did it was probably 20 years ago.
To be seen. Let's see how that fade works out.
But going back to my idea, and I'm going to ask you guys this opinion. Would you guys like that? Do me a favor, vote yes or no, or shoot me an email, romansharf@luxurybazaar.com. By the way, if anybody wants to contact Adrian, his email is adrian@luxurybazaar.com. And his Instagram is VIPVolt. A lot of you guys already know this. We've put this up. But tell me your thoughts. There's a lot of nuances where a lot of the stuff doesn't make it online. I've heard some complaints from you guys where like, where all these watches that you've been showing on YouTube, I don't see them online. Where are they? Blah, blah, because they're sold, and they're sold quickly. I always take your input. I always hear what my YouTubers are saying. I read the comments, and I take notes on that. But I think Ian can draw up all this whole QVC style thing. Ian, bring it in. Ian, can we do a QVC type of thing? Do I need like a turntable or something? Put in all the frames and stuff like that. Thank you for that, Ian. So yeah.
Are you gonna wear a dress? No. Only if you wear a dress, high heels, do the whole thing, do the whole presentation. Well, I've seen how they do it on QVC, right? Is that QVC?
I don't know. I don't watch them either. But guys, let us know. Hope you enjoyed today's show.
Feel free to reach out to me. I'd like to know your thoughts as well. If you have any questions about,
if you contact him, you'll get a much faster response. By the way, I've been so overwhelmed with strictly emails from YouTube that I'm literally in email jail for the first couple of hours when I walk into the office and while I'm on the go. Just the same. I told you I hired an assistant to help me with that due to the overwhelming responses. Hope you enjoyed today's show. As always, hit the like button, subscribe if you're already not a subscriber. And I'll see you guys next week for more watch reviews and
what's on your desk?
Other videos. And other videos. Thanks, guys.